Thanks for joining us. If you slowly take your seats, I think we can get started. A warm welcome to our session on the Innovative Health Initiative, IHI, and where we hope to have a good discussion both with our panelists but also with you in the audience around what makes for a good and successful IHI project and what are interesting and important topics to tackle in public-private partnerships. I'm Niklas Blomberg. I'm the Executive Director of the IHI initiative, and with me today I have three guests. Nathalie Seigneuret, who is Senior Scientific Project Manager at IHI. We have Christian Mühlendück, who is the Strategic Partnerships Lead for Europe for Johnson & Johnson. And we have Xenia Beltran, who's the Head of Big Data at LifeTech at the University of Madrid. And if you ask a question, which I hope you will, then it'd be great if you could just briefly introduce yourself as we get to that. There is also a Slido, which is supposed to... no, it wasn't locked. Perfect. And so there will be a QR code, which is on the screen now. If you want to ask a question via Slido, that's okay. I think there's also an online component here. And then in the room, just stand up. So before we get started, just a few words on the Innovative Health Initiative. So we are one of the world's largest public-private partnerships for health research, and we are truly public-private partnership. So 50% of half of the funding in our projects comes from the European Commission, and the other half comes from our industry members, the pharmaceutical industry through FPIA, but it's also the medical technologies, devices industries in Europe via COSIR and MedTech Europe. We also have the SME, the small biotech associations joining via Europa Bio, and also Vaccines Europe. So it's really the whole of the health industries in Europe across the sectors. And that's one of the core things that we're trying to do, is really bring together actors from the public sphere, universities, researchers, patient organizations, healthcare systems, together with industry players and form consortia that tackle important unmet public health needs. And it's really unmet public health needs in the widest sense of that term. And I think we'll come into that when we start to talk about both our projects and the experiences, but also when I'll come back at the end of the session to advertise some of our upcoming calls. And you will see that they range from biomarker discovery and certification to actually implementation into healthcare systems and streamlining work in healthcare systems. But I don't think you've come to listen to me. I think you've come to listen to our panel. So I'll invite our panelists to say a few words about themselves and their experiences, and then we'll dive into a session. So Xenia, maybe I start with you.
Thank you. The red? Here we go. Okay. That's good. So good morning. My name is Xenia Beltran. I'm part of Life Supporting Technologies Department at Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. We have been coordinators of the PharmaLedger project. PharmaLedger project just finished. Okay. We are coordinating two new IHIs right now also, and we are participating in other two big projects, okay, as part of IHI. Our background is quite diverse also at life supporting technology and part of big data area inside it. Okay, however, our big focus is biomedicine and actually transversal health and actions and technologies through the healthcare environment. That means from e-consent to actually trials and support, okay, platforms that really help to get data together from all different stakeholders at the healthcare environment as such.
Thank you, Xenia. And then maybe Christian.
No, it's red. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. Christian Mühlendück from Johnson & Johnson MedTech. Johnson & Johnson is separated into two different entities, the innovative medicines, the pharma part and the medtech part. And I'm here from medtech because thanks to IHI, which includes now also the medtech and the medical device, vaccines, industries as potential partners, we have been taking up this opportunity very much. So J&J has a long history and strong belief in public-private partnerships. They've been very much involved in IMI. And now we as medtech have taken this up as well. We are involved as we speak within 3 projects that are up and running, a couple of projects that are currently in evaluation, then other projects where we're in the proposal phase and also in the call preparation. And I think one aspect about IHI is absolutely unique worldwide. If you look into public-private partnerships, and why it makes it so interesting for us is the fact that usually when you have public-private partnerships, there's a call out there that you can respond to that then is driving your assets, accelerating it, de-risking it from that perspective, but it's a more reactive approach. Within IHI, similar as with, or same as with an IMI, it's not only an opportunity but an obligation to define what is a key topic to address, a key topic to take forward and shape and drive a call. That's one aspect. And thereby really closely aligning and cooperating about what are the key topics to address. And the second part is really to shape the healthcare system, the economy, the ecosystem. Normally, it's about a specific asset, a specific tool that needs to be taken forward. Within IHI, there's now the opportunity, similar as I am, really shape ecosystem. And I think DIA is a perfect place to be here and to discuss this because it's about collaboration. It's about changing and shaping towards the future of healthcare. And I think IHI is within that aspect an absolute ideal partner, at least for us within J&J. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Nathalie, please.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Nathalie Signoret, and I've been in IMI, IMI2, and IHI, so for over 13 years, so I think I've seen the evolution from the transition and the power of collaboration, and actually the motto of today, the DIA, the innovation through collaboration, that's exactly what we have been doing over the lifespan of this partnership, public-private partnership. And before that, I used to work at the European Medicine Agency, so having the regulatory background, which is important in our, as well in our projects.
So thank you very much. And so we will open up to the more discursive part of the session, and we'll cover a couple of different themes. And so I'll ask a few reflections from the panel, but then I'll open up after each of the sort of panel reflections for comments or questions from the audience. I really hope we can make this quite interactive. I also see that there are members from past successful projects in the audience, so feel free to share your experience and reflections. But I thought I would start with just asking what really makes for a good IHI or IHI project. And I mean, Christian and Zhenya, you have both led or leading some of these large projects and consortia. So really, if you could share your experience, what really makes for a good project? So maybe, Christian, you can start.
Okay, then I take this first. Thanks a lot. So I think there are different levels to look into. I think the project itself, there are two different parts that I would look into. It should be broad to be able to attract different players, different people, and really address fundamental topics like shaping the ecosystem, regulatory changes, etc., and really laying a foundation for changes in the healthcare system. But then, on the other hand, to also be specific to specific use cases around a specific disease or pathology. And with those two parts together, I think they will, that's what we are experiencing, they support each other really well. We have in the IDERA project that I have the opportunity to lead, we are building a health data space, and we have a lot of discussion about European health data space. So there's a technology development and the ones that are watching what's happening in the market. they help each other enormously. The same thing happens from an AI development. It would be no good use if there's some AI development in the healthcare system, in the healthcare system, without looking what is happening on the outside. So I think really being able to bring those two parts together, because they stimulate each other, they can learn from each other and help each other from that aspect. So it's really a closed loop. That's from a breadth perspective. From a project perspective itself, what makes a good project, I think underlying, like within any company, entity or whatever, you need a good management that keeps the house in order. And then it's about trust. We are working in a virtual environment. Most of it all, we come from very diverse backgrounds. I personally have to say, within this work in the IHI project, I've never worked in such a diverse environment, different people, different thinking, different aspects, different priorities. Bringing that together is a challenge, but also an absolute blessing, because I think that makes the real value out of it. So you really need to bring the connectivity. And I don't know if anyone of you is a sailor, but when the IDERA project started off last year, there was the around the globe sailing event that went on that I was following. And then it became very clear to me they're totally different aspects. Someone is taking care of the weather, someone is taking care of other logistics. They're teams with that are very specialized. They all have the very siloed approaches, but only together they are strong. And what makes sailing so attractive, or such a good analogy for me, sailing is nothing else but responding to external changes. The wind changes, the current changes. If this happens outside the water, it's a crisis. During sailing, it's the most normal thing, but one thing is clear: the team needs to course adjust towards one common vision, and I think that's a very important thing that we try to drive forward within the project, to have that common vision, bring it together, and drive it from the communication. So I think these are the two different aspects that I would think are important for a good project, that people that are in this journey for 5 years or 4 years, whatever it takes, really feel this is the right thing to work in.
Thank you, Christian. And Shinya, some reflections from your side?
Yes, similarly, well, he called it breadth perspective, but I think the breadth perspective, or big perspective, is also seen when we are at proposal level, let's say that way. And I think what is important there is also first, in both cases, first, good communication. Now with IHI, you have like 1 stage, 2 stages for that. So actually, I think it's important to listen of the industry needs. At the end, these projects, okay, the main stakeholders that are going to take the results are the industry. So I think an important issue is to learn how to build an umbrella over the interest of what the industry is bringing, okay? I think at proposal level also, it is important as representing, let's say, the public side or academics, also to understand that it's not the industry which is joining our proposal or our consortium. It's us joining a consortium that is being done by the industry, especially if you're doing a 2-stage. So actually, that the vision would be, okay, that actually the applied research that is done at the academic level is going to take really place there. And I think that's important also to be understood, okay, by both sides. I think at the industry level, there is also sometimes a lack of understanding that when they think researchers and academics are coming to many of these projects, okay, they don't follow the market. There is an applied research, okay, where we can support and enrich ideas that are in the market with new knowledge, okay, and the opposite, that researchers and people that is in our side, okay, can be enriched with the information that is in the market, so actually we can improve our knowledge and see how to better apply to be really taken to a practical stage. So I think if you go on thinking and try to step on the shoes of the other ones, okay, it's what it makes, okay, at the beginning, a good initiation. And if you have a good initiation, the probabilities that you have a good project is very, very high also. For us, in the projects that we had, especially in PharmaLedger, I was the coordinator there. So actually, one of the big things, okay, that was the connection with the industry was very good, okay. Besides having the coordination and administrative part, okay, all in place, good to be taken. But I think also taking it hand by hand and working hand by hand, and actually fighting stereotypes, okay, on one side, okay, that is not pure research, on the other side, okay, that the industry do not work. No, on our case, in all the projects we have, industry works and very hard, okay, so they get involved and they have things to say, and we have to understand that they have things to say. They are not like the H2020 projects as such. I think if you get to go through that, it's actually the probabilities to get successful are very high.
Thanks, Genia. And I think I'd like to build on that when I'm handing over to Natalie. It's, as you say, Genia, I think it's very different to many other European projects.
Yeah.
We are public-private partnerships. They are large and they aim to be transformative. And I guess what makes the projects transformative also makes the program quite sort of hard and competitive. Natalie, you've been with the initiative for many years. You've seen over 100 of projects form. So what is your best advice to someone who's thinking about building a consortia?
So the best advice, in a way, is indeed you need to understand that you enter into a PPP, that it's not a project that you would do in your normal, in a way, I'd say normal in brackets, in your normal funding that you may have somewhere else. And if you are part of industry, you need to understand that I'm going to be in a project, so I need to be open-minded, and I don't have necessarily the truth. So that will have to be worked out collaboratively. But of course, the more we see, and again, if we look now at IHI, the fact that we are building the cross-sectoriality, it has to be reflected as well in the composition of the consortium. So it's really important to bring the necessary expertise in the consortium itself, or if it's not in the consortium, because of course we tend to have large consortium, and I look at the average, already looking at the IHI, not the IMI, but now just on the 16 projects that have been launched already in IHI, the average is 25 partners, but we go up to 50, 60 partners around the table. So you need to have a real sense of, as you said, having the vision together and the leadership. And the leadership needs to be as well at the collaboration in every sense, because it's a joint responsibility. We all fail together or we all succeed together. So that's really the important aspect. And the language. And the more we are across sectors, the more we bring other people around the table. Just saying that there are quite a lot of discussion just about some regulatory in this DI meeting. We don't speak the same language. So already having somehow around the table the ability to make sure that there is the same common vocabulary so that everybody understands not only his role and responsibility, but as well what the project is trying to do. And we have seen many projects who have worked on that just from the start, just having a glossary or even having terms that already everybody can agree upon, because otherwise it's sometimes some misunderstanding that shouldn't be there. But that's definitely some aspect, and that helps to build the trust, and that helps to generate the evidence. And of course, one of the big things as well is to know what we do, because we want to have everything uptaken. So for sure, if we want to have people-centric or patient-centric or end user needs to be integrated, whether they are part or a strategy to engage with them. The same if we want to generate data that has to be uptaken by regulators and downstream by the HTA bodies and by the payers. Again, they need to be engaged somehow. So all that needs to be thought of from the start at the proposal level. Because it's not like mid-project that suddenly, oh, I need to engage, oh, I need to do that. All that needs to be built as part of the objective of the project. That's a bit complex, but we have indeed more than 200 experience that it worked very well. And something that, if I may, is that so far we first never had the consortium that failed, and second, only positive feedback. So I think there is definitely a value in this PPP.
Thank you. And I mean, I'm relatively new as the executive director, but I think to pick up on that, one of the things that struck me joining IHI is really how the science officers, so Natalie and her colleagues, work with the projects to try to carry that learning into the projects and help them to get started. And I think that's a really important part of helping our projects to succeed. So if we have successful projects, I'd like to switch a little bit to the outcomes. So if we have a successful project, then we need to make use of those developments. I'd like to talk a little bit about the sort of long-term uptake and use of the outcomes of the IHI projects. And so, and I know we have also some of our successful projects in the audience with C4C at the back, which have is another good example. But maybe, Xenia, could you talk a little bit about how the sort of Pharma Ledger project was carried forward and how you're thinking about making sure that the outcomes are used?
Yes, actually, we at Pharma Ledger project, we started 1 year before the project as such, and we started together with the industry to build a roadmap of how the outcomes, could be uptaken. We created the Pharma Ledger Association, so anyone is welcome to the Pharma Ledger Association. Pharma Ledger Association is an ecosystem. Now we have medtech companies, also we have the pharmas. And we have to say that it was kind of also a big challenge, because actually to create a figure that actually supports sustainability of the projects, together with big companies, sometimes even the legal framework in which the big companies are is quite difficult, for also what is expected sometimes to have the sustainability of the results as such. So what we did is we thought actually from the proposal stage, to have kind of like a project, where the results were very close to be adopted by the industry. And we put the resources in the project during the last year to focus that the outcomes and the software and the platform that was coming out of Pharma Ledger was able to be certified, to be adopted for the industry. So we worked together with the industry to which level could be certified. So we got to a pre-certification, because for each of the software that has to be used in these big companies, they have to have kind of like an acceptance level, So actually there is a part that when each company has the software to be customized, they have to do on their side, but then we as a project got it like what is called near to the market and real near to the market, to a pre-certification stage, where later when the Pharma Ledger Association was able to be ready, then they could do the certification. It's been a year, The first, we divided our use cases, with more potential and maturity to the ones with less, and we took one that it was going to be the flagship use case, and it was regarding EPI. This use case already has been, the software has been certified. It was a project, about blockchain, and supporting with blockchain from clinical trials to the supply chain to EPI, or the product information. And actually, what we did, is we divided in a roadmap for potential adoption and the taking and based on the interest of the industry as such. And right now, after a year, the association is self-funded, We have the participation of most of the industry that already was part of the project, and some new one that has come, some other companies that had nothing to do with with our project as such, but still interesting. So logistics from people, for example, like it could be DHL, or some packaging companies right now that are joining the association as such. So the ecosystem as such, is growing. And actually, the first goal also as the association has been to create the certification to be adopted, and it's been adopted. We left 6 nodes of blockchain in the industry when the project finished. All the blockchains and the nodes were working. All the use cases, got to be a prototype and minimal viable product, so actually to be able to be launched after the project in the association, or to be changed if the interest of the industry was different. So actually, we are very happy with the results. We are very happy to still be working with the industry after the project as such, and we believe it's been a big success. So very happy.
Thank you, Xenia. Can I switch to Christian and see the industry perspective on the uptake and the use of the results?
Yeah, thank you. And I would like to add two additional aspects. Given the fact that these projects are very much aligned or completely aligned with our strategic priorities, the project is one part of that whole ecosystem that we are working in, if you talk about digitalization or regulatory or whatever it might be. It's part of the work that we have anyway. So I would look into short-term benefits and long-term benefits. And from a short-term, benefits are there on a daily basis because, coming back to Natalie, it's all about learning. If we are working with an industry, we are in our own ecosystem, working in a public-private partnership, it's definitely an absolute acceleration and amplification of the learning that we can have in a very open exchange format, working with people very openly, getting ideas, getting thoughts and considerations. And I truly believe, and we're seeing this at the moment, this is more important now than ever before with the enormous acceleration that we have with the digitalization, with areas that we as industry are not experts in, where we really need to become experts over time. How do we get that expertise in-house? That's where public-private partnerships definitely help us to accelerate and get a good understanding, saying, hey, wow, this is interesting. And I mean, we as industry call ourselves the market leaders. Within these public partnerships, we are not working with anyone less than that in the other areas as well, from research, from academia, from health authorities, from patient associations, etc. So it's really the who is who in that field that comes together to exchange thoughts and ideas, and it's about the constant stimulation. That's what I would see is definitely worth it, no matter what the outcomes are in the end. That's one aspect. Then we have everything that you just shared, and they're like additional things like legal frameworks that are established and can be taken forward, which would otherwise be really a lot of work. But looking from a long-term perspective, if I look into the IHI projects that I have an insights in now, they would be impossible without the pre-work that was done in the IMI. If you talk about the Eden framework that you've probably heard, where there was a common data model established within one IMI project, that is now the common data model for EMA, that is now the language that we will use as the core part for our IDERA project. If we look into FAIR Plus or the FAIR data principles, there are many of those examples that are results that can be taken forward. And we basically looked into what is our approach, how do we want to take it, and then took what is out there. So the vision that we really take within our project is to be an architect. An architect is there to build a new house. If you look into this room, it's an architect that has built something, but most of the things that were brought together in a very unique way are bought off the shelf. And that's exactly the approach that we are taking, trying to not reinventing the wheel, but looking what is out there, how can this be brought together in a unique way, and add that one additional piece that makes a difference. And then this also has then an opportunity to be sustainable and taken forward and hopefully then used by others.
Thanks, Christian. I think there was an interesting aspect there of knowledge sharing with the larger community. And I think if we look across the IHI portfolio, a very large proportion of the in-kind, so the industry funding, is actually the funding of industry scientists that participate in our projects. I think that's 60–70% of the contributions from industry is actually people who work in these consortia. Yeah, I guess that speaks to your first point. It's a value seen across the whole industrial partnership. Yeah, and it's not only about giving insights from industry, but receiving a lot of different aspects. Yeah, that's interesting. So I'd like
just a small comment also. I think another important thing, and taking the words from Christian, okay, I think these IHI projects and IHI experience as such also supports the industry in several issues. Like, for example, I think one company as such, okay, there are many things that they cannot do by itself, okay, but together they can go together. Like, for example, now there are many regulatory issues, okay, that are coming for things that have to be done with new technology, like from artificial intelligence, from new markers that will be coming, from new things that have to go together. And I think the experience of doing them together with different use cases also, okay, helping in what Christian called their strategic vision and how to support actually if the results go better or or less better, let's say that time. It's the experience to help to accelerate many of the processes that they as part of the ecosystem also strategically, okay, would like to go. So I think these projects also help them to do things that by themselves, each company, either they are very big, okay, they still cannot do, or it will take a long time to do it or to go across.
Yeah, thanks. At this point, I'd like to open up from the audience if there's any comments or thoughts. So please.
Hi, Mark Turner, Connect for Children, and we've set up a non-profit that is about to open its services after years of preparation. So thank you very much to IHI for that. I can only echo all the comments on how to do things from successful people. I guess my reflection would be about the need to make it clear to people what they're taking on, because I think that has been something that everyone has learned, and you need to find the right people. And sometimes that's been a struggle for us working with industry to make sure that we have the people that know what we're talking about, rather than the people who are constitutionally interested in collaborating. And I think there's a lot of people who get dopamine from collaborating, but they're not necessarily the ones that know the operational details that are crucial to success. So I think there's some preparation, and same with academics. Academics are see the money and that gets their dopamine going, but they may not be the right people to actually conduct the project or to make it sustainable. And so that's a learning for us, and maybe some formation of people as they come along and make sure that they really understand what's going on would be helpful. And another reflection would be on the need for market assessment at all stages before the proposal and from day one of the project, to make sure that sustainability is going to work. It's quite possible to think of nice ideas that sound good and make good calls, but turning those into a sustainable entity with demand, with supply, with people who are willing to pay for the services has been a very interesting discussion. And I think that academics, at least, will promise 100% when they make the call and deliver 10% when they do the trial, and probably we end up giving 1% in a sustainable organisation, and it's finding that 1% that is the essence, because that's what's going to make the sustainability, and people need to be aware of that when they start. And often they're attracted by the money or by the kudos or by the opportunities, but in the real world we need to be getting down to that financially viable 1% as quickly as possible, and planning from it from day one or even before day one of the project.
Thanks, that's really good reflections. Maybe two words also, Mark, on Connect for Children, so what it is.
Thank you. So Connect for Children was an IHI project that started in 2008 and is due to finish next year. We work with 10 big pharma companies through FPIA and have co-developed some services that target particular gaps that the companies identified, relating to building on their in-house expertise in paediatrics and how to generalize that, and how to find sites and engage sites rapidly. So we have 400 experts under contract and 250 sites as a part of the network. And so we're ready to roll out advice and trials, building on things like confidentiality disclosure agreements that we've engineered and tested. The expert advice service we've tested 50 times in the past couple of years, so we know that the arrangements work. And the wrapper that the IHI provides has been a very safe way for industry lawyers to be creative and come up with things that work across multiple companies, building in the voice of patients, children and young people living with conditions. So now we have a non-profit, a stichting based in the Netherlands that is opening for business, and it's a really good example of how a safe space allows these discussions. There were several services that we're not taking into the stichting, and I think that kind of sort of natural selection needs to be part of the discussion from quite early on, because there are lots of good ideas, but very few of them actually generate revenue or sufficient revenue.
Good, thanks. And I think that's another really good example of these large, ambitious, and really quite complicated projects that then generates a lasting, in this case, a large pediatric clinical trial network in Europe. I'd like to, I don't see any other raised hand. Yes, sorry.
Yes, thank you. My name is Willemme, Novartis. I work with Natalie on IMI conception. I think if I hear the numbers that you just mentioned, that we must be one of the biggest consortia with almost 90 partners, which can be challenging from time to time, but it's also very rewarding. We are in the last year of our project, so conception is looking at the safety of medicines and methods to improve that during pregnancy and lactation. And we are now entering the discussions on sustainability. We're not starting there because we already try to start from scratch, of course, from year one on the discussion on sustainability. But what we really see is that it needs a totally different mindset because we have the industry, we have the academia, and we are all very good in doing the how do you say, the tasks that we listed in the description of action, but really the sustainability part and bringing that to a next level that can continue after 31st of December this year, I would say, is a different mindset and needs more entrepreneurial kind of skills. So we see also that we have partners that we are focusing on more in a later stage only, and that have been more silent in the beginning. But still, I think, yeah, it's very challenging. And just what you said in the beginning, I think for me, this whole project is really breaking silos. And I come from another session now where this industry was referred to as the dark side. And I think for me, the biggest gain of an IMI conception project would be that there is no dark side. We're just two different sides of the same coin, and we're working towards the same goals in the end of the day. And I think if that is the only gain of the project, I think we already did a good job.
Thank you. And I think that might be a really good segue to the next topic I'd like to talk about. So I'll jump a little bit. And so one of the areas I think where we really have been able to provide that, if you want, safe space where there are equal actors and there can be open discussions, is around the regulatory science and the advancement of regulatory science. And there's been a lot of work over the years on regulatory science. And I know from your projects that it's also an important part of what you do. But maybe I'll start with Natalie. Maybe you could say a few words on your experience across projects on advancing the regulatory science and the interactions with regulators.
Yes, I think maybe we should start that nowadays it's a bit a given that everybody talks to each other and collaborate between regulators, industry, academics, group patient organization, HTA, all around the table. But actually when we started under IMI, years ago, that was definitely not a given, and we had some projects that for sure were already developing, let's say, a biomarker, and thinking that the biomarker will be uptaken by regulators, but not thinking what do I need to generate as data to give the evidence that indeed could be used in a development. So it took a little bit of time, and then it took a little bit of project as well to really make sure that we have a change as well in the approach, in the sense that I know that now we talk as well as a given for Eden, IDERA, but when we had the first Get Real project, that was the first time we were talking about how we bring real-world data into drug development, and it was one of the first projects that we had around the table, all the different stakeholders, including regulators, HTA, and patients on the top of academics. So we have learned a lot from here, but indeed it's important elements, and what we have seen is that we have a bucket of projects, for instance, that have really been in the lead of changing the way of looking at safety of medicines, looking more from the methodological approach. With Protect was one of the first and led by EMA, but we have as well some other aspects on Web Radar, with the use now of this mobile application for reporting ADR that is uptaken by WHO to be brought as well and used in other countries. So we had quite a number of projects in the safety, but then we do have projects that really contribute to advancing, like, let's say now, all the initiative about ACT-EU, and we had already a number of projects that somehow contributing with platform trials on EU Pearl that have put in place all the elements that can be used now to do platform trial that we all want to do in order to save and to be more optimized way of conducting clinical trial. And of course, we have all the other projects that contribute as well through the on real-world data, which is now the real-world data, real-world evidence, the big discussion, and that contributes as well to the EHDS. So for sure, there are a lot in our project that contribute to this advancement of regulatory science, and we are I should have said, we are in a privileged place to be in this neutral platform where everybody can bring and play equal role and play equal on the discussion and understanding each other. Some of the projects may not have seen that it was a big impact, but already just the fact of talking to each other is already a big impact. And just to say one thing that I see again about the network, we had even one of our projects from IMI, one project was on different on asthma, but they are still talking to each other and still as an alliance. And I think all that we see on the, of course, all the ones who have led to association, but even the ones that have not formalized their continuation as a non-profit organization or as an association, still work together and continue to build this generation of evidence that will help to develop not only medicines, but health intervention, health solutions for the benefit of patients and the society as a whole, and be implementable in a healthcare system. So definitely there is a big shift, and we see the importance of driving the regulatory science. But of course, not all projects are related to regulatory science, for sure.
But so maybe I turn to Shinya and Christian. So both of your projects, you've had experience with certification. I think in Christian, in your project, you also have HTA bodies involved to look at cost effectively. So maybe you can share some of your thoughts and experience. Shinya, do you want to start?
Yeah, and I would like to talk on, sorry, I didn't understand your name, so.
Marjolein.
Marian.
Yeah.
Marian's comment, okay? Because when you come to this project, it's so often say industry side and public side. But the public side is not means that we are all public organizations. Public side is, we are called like that because we are publicly funding. And that, in my view, misleads a lot. In the public consortium or publicly funded people, there are a group of SMEs, which in my view, play an important role when you come to sustainability. I understand all the part, and we went through that. Actually, our co-leaders were, co-industry leaders were Novartis, okay? So actually, but I think they played a great role together with 2 or 3 other big companies, okay? Explaining us how the results potentially could be adopted. And when you do that exercise, you also have some kind of other stakeholders that in some cases are regulatory ones, okay, like we work, for example, in some other projects that we have from IHI with regions and healthcare regions that they are regulatory, and then when we bring them, then both the industry know how to go through the regulatory and the regulatory knows what to expect from the industry. In the case of sustainability, okay, in my view, the SMEs and bringing the SMEs, okay, to the consortium, okay, now especially that we have this one stage, also I think is an important concept for the industry. It's important because they are the ones with highest potential to take your results closer to the industry to be adopted. So when you get and share the knowledge, and it was commented, okay, and actually you share the knowledge, how this potentially could be adopted in industries or companies like the one, or departments, because many times are departments with their own budgets, okay, what really participate in these projects and big budgets as such, okay, when you get to understand, okay, what is the process from the public, including SMEs and universities, okay, what is the process to be taken, okay, and to understood to actually support these results to get to the industry, it's easier. And also on the other side, on the industry side, they get to know new providers, new ways, and to actually support, okay, new people that can be working as usual or not, or with new technologies or new approaches that also can enrich, okay, and the current portfolio of that you have. So I think that's where really the sustainability takes place, and figures as having in SMEs that can drive your results, okay, in your consortium is an important figure that needs to be, let's say, integrated. So in my view, there is no dark side, okay, as you commented. The issue that is true, that in my view, you have to leave also space to the industry so they talk among each other, because for sure the strategic cannot be many times shared, okay? But also when you have to align, you have to have your own space, okay, to put new strategies together. So if that's called the dark side, well, and then I guess it just have to be understood that there are spaces that need to be respected at some point, okay? If you really want to take that to the new space, or you want to take the results that are coming from this kind of close RRD to the market as such. But.
Thank you. And I think that's a really good comment, isn't it? To make sure that you leave space for all the partners in a partnership to be successful. I think that might be a really key takeaway.
Like in a marriage, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So on that note, Christian.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in any partnership. But, I see regulators as a close partner, no matter where we come from. But these public-private partnerships, and you just mentioned it, give a good opportunity to sit together at the table. In the normal world, outside public-private partnerships, it's quite often the aspect that regulators are something like a gatekeeper. I'm personally very happy about these gatekeepers because at some stage I'm also a patient. And also the other aspect is I see it a little bit like the finance managers that we've got in the companies. They are also gatekeepers and ensure that things go right. And I strongly believe we all want the same, and within IHI, for example, the patient is put in the center of all the discussion, and this is about sitting on the table together about developing how to shape the rules of the future, what does make sense in the future. With real-world evidence, a lot of discussions are held, but we are definitely not there at the end of the discussion, but it's a current understanding, aligning with digitalization of data. The data quality will improve over time. We all know what data quality we have had until recently and where we are. I think these are all very relevant questions. So I think sitting together with the patient focus and having patient organizations, physicians, industry, regulators all together discussing about actual changes, trends, and topics that need to be solved, I think is a very fruitful approach and a very necessary one, especially in the times that we have now with digitalization. We have, if you look through the agenda of DIA and the 11 chapters, all of those require new regulatory solutions and ways forward. So if not doing this together against each other, no one will succeed. And the one that will suffer the most is going to be us as patients. Because, I mean, we need to bring this forward. How are we going to bring in digitalization and healthcare if there's not a regulation in place? How is that all come together? So I see this as a close partnership, which obviously also has a business relationship with, like a control response kind of activity, but that's happening everywhere in the world in other areas as well.
So, thanks a lot. I'd like to open up for reflections from the audience, and I see we have the... Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm on the moon. I'm coordinating Gravitate Health, public-private partnership and co-lead it with Pfizer. One thing that I also like to bring, and we're not such a big project, we're only 41 partners at the moment, so, and that's quite exciting. It's very rich collaboration. What I wanted to bring to the table is also an opportunity to work with regulators and work across the private-public sector to also create necessary resources that are in order to drive and fuel the digital transformation. So, for example, in Gravitate Health, we started in collaboration with one of our partners, HL7, to create the EPI, Fire Implementation Guide. And one of the things that we saw was the global uptake of this resource, so that we had the opportunity to do something that we needed to do in our partnership to succeed, but we have also had the opportunity to work with regulators, and now we have regular consultations with EMA and FDA, and we see a lot of interest globally and global uptake of these resources. And we couldn't have done that if it hadn't been for the opportunity to collaborate across sectors and to also have the flag of being an IMI or an IHI project that wanted to do something. So I wanted to share that story, and that has been very helpful for us. We still have 2 years to go, and we expect that to be driving for more sustainable solutions and uptake. And we can use that also to interact with SMEs and other sectors like Senja and Christian has mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's one of several examples, I think, where the large IHI consortia really have been able to drive global standards and really provide a sort of a European voice globally to make sure that the global standards correspond to the needs of the European actors. Natalie, I see you itch to interact there.
Yes, maybe if I can add, because your example is perfectly a good example of what has been possible to be done. And actually, we have over project that indeed, because we are European, for sure, partnership, but we are global. And you need to have the involvement and the engagement with others as well. And we have several other projects that have managed and to shed the light on some issues at a global level. And one thing that is important, I think, as well, is that, of course, you regulators, they have actually, I know that from national competent authorities, EMA, they have criteria when they decide to join or not a project or a consortium, and they will not join for systematically. However, that doesn't prevent for having the strategy for engaging, but not only for engaging, but as well the strategy of what we would like to do and what we would like from them. And we have just recently finalized a guidance to really help applicants at the time of the proposal, but as well at project level, on how really to think of things that is really important in this space. Again, not all projects have this regulatory relevance, but those who have, to think from the start of what needs to be embedded into the strategy of the and the project itself, and the way of possible engagement, not only with EMA at national level, at FDA, but as well now would be the complexity. Now we've been more like with IHI, the cross-sectoriality, that will be a little bit more complex by bringing the other device regulators, because here again the system is a little bit more, I shouldn't say fragmented, but it's a little bit more difficult to know who should we start doing. So I know that there are some pilot as well for advices, but for the moment it's limited. But again, for our project that we need to interact with all these regulators, so we will see probably things moving in the next couple of years as well, because that's definitely critical.
Gravitate is a very successful project also as such, and I think it could be taken an example. And for me, this is one of the examples as such that when the industry of things that they want to do or they would like to do together or experience together, because you as one organization cannot go through this kind of like just go and trying to get EMA in one meeting as such, or to consult several things that you have the approach. So I think it's a great example when the people have, or organizations can common needs and can be shared and done in projects like IHI.
Thanks. So we need to start to wrap up. And so I'd like to just, if you got interested, we do have opportunities. So there are actually 2 IHI calls open at the moment, call 6 and call 7, with a variety of different topics. And so I leave the topics here and the website. But actually, as a final question to the panel, I think we need to be a little bit brief. What would be your best advice to someone thinking about the upcoming topics? So maybe, Christian, you start.
Upcoming topics for the heart disease, I'm happy for open discussions. Apart from that, reach out to your associations and then start talking, start learning and understanding. Maybe that one call is not the optimal for you, but then trying to understand and get deeper into it. I think it's a huge opportunity that is out there, and that we should all be leveraging, as it gives us opportunities that we definitely need to take for very relevant topics if you look at these examples only.
Thanks, Christian. And Zhenya?
Well, my advice, I'm going to split it a little bit as part of the stakeholder. Like, as for the industry, I think that when you bring to the IHI kind of like a specific issue or a specific problem, think that it can be shared under a framework or under an umbrella with the other part of the industry. So usually it could be a big use case, okay, that you can drive and get results for your part, but also, okay, if you put it as part of the use case, it can be for sure easily shared with pharmas and medtech, which usually is sometimes, at least in my experience, to bring them together as such. As for the public funded consortium, okay, I think that that the industry is not joining to consortium. You are joining their consortium if you really want to have results and be successful as such.
Thanks, Zhenya. And Natalie?
And for sure take the patients with you.
Ah, yes.
So the big thing would be network, build your consortium, and the big difference between single stage and two stage is, we can put it in 2 words. The single stage would be you can bring from the start your consortium. So bring everybody you want to work with in the consortium for addressing the topic. While in the 2 stage, it's a bit of forced marriage. But as we have seen, that the forced marriage between the pre-identify industry consortium that will then be joined by the winning public partners consortium. That so far, no forced marriage have led to a divorce, so it's positive.
So good. So with that, I think I would just like to thank everyone for coming. It's been great to have you here, and I'd like to warmly thank our panelists for contributing today. So thank you. So stay in touch. The contact details for IHI is on the screen, and if none of the open calls are interesting, then call 8 will be coming quite soon. So thank you all for coming today.